to 15 lessons a month. Normally in traditional lessons, you're getting like a lesson every other week or so. So this is just way too much for you to take in. So, the goal is for you to get some little nugget of something that you can really practice on, really work on. Once you feel like you have that, then you really don't need anything else from me. Go practice. That's where this stuff is really gonna happen. You're not going to get through this lesson and be able to play something really well. You're going to get through this lesson and have the information that you need to practice more effectively. That's really the goal here. So don't feel bad about taking off early. If you feel like halfway through the lesson you got as much as you can take in at that time, then go practice that thing, and then come back whenever you've got that thing down, or you're bored with it, or you just want to check out the next topic. Don't forget also that you've got the archives too. So if you want to see one little thing, just repeat it over and over and over. Just give me, hopefully within 24 hours after the lesson, this thing will be up in the archive, so you can just go back and watch it over and over and over and over and just get that little segment down. So each lesson has its own specific focus. This one, out of the 8 sectors of musicianship, the one that we're focusing on today is style. So this is a lot like, in language, how different places of countries have different accents. Even though they're all speaking the same language, they have different accents from different sectors of the country. So that's kind of what this is. In music, you've got music. This is C. But then, you've got all your different accents, the different pieces of lingo, the blues stuff, and the country stuff. So all the different genres have their own very distinct feels to them. Today's going to focus on giving you a little piece of how you can have the accent of a certain style. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's try it out. Welcome back. This is New Age Piano. Let's just jump right in, and you can see here at the beginning where we're going later on in the lesson, and over the next 3 lessons. Today is the beginners, and then intermediate is tomorrow, and then the advanced after that. So not all this will be covered entirely today, but in the next couple lessons we should be able to do something very, very similar to, actually let's do this. Go ahead and This is not a song that's just made up on the spot, which is the goal. So most of that's just really super simple, easy junk in there. But it's somewhat pleasing to apparently a lot of people. And so we're calling this new age piano, for lack of a better term, but this is just like noodling around inside of a key with this particular like feel to it. It has like that Yanni or George Winston-esque type of a feel to it. So then let's just jump right in here and see what we can do. Now, the very first thing is we've got a whole bunch of keys that we can play in. The one we're going to be dealing with today is the key of C. I want to let you know that there are other keys you could play in. Everything I played was all white notes. You can rewind and go back and watch any of that stuff that I was doing there, and you'll notice it was all, I didn't use any black notes. So I was in the key of C. That's what the key of C means. It's just all white notes. Cool. It also means that C is the most important note. So that one right there is going to be the one that is primary. That's the kind of the focus of the whole thing, is playing C in both hands, playing C, and then going away and not playing C, and then coming back again and making sure that C gets played. So it's home base. It is the start and the finish, the alpha, the omega. That's what the key of C means. All right. So then there are other keys as well. So you could play in the key of D flat if you wanted, which would just mean, first of all, that your ink has to be the color that does not. Oh my goodness. Hang on. We need a different color other than white. Does not work. Sure, orange, except that everything's orange. There we go. Black could work. Whew. All right, so you could play in the key of D flat is what I was going to try to say there. You could play in the key of D flat, or you could play in the key of D if you wanted, or you could play in the key of E flat. We're not going to deal with any of that. We're just going to play in the key of C. I know some of you from the intermediate and advanced lessons like to peek over on the beginner lessons to see what we're going to be getting into in your lesson, but that's not for today. That's all for the future. So we're just going to stay in the key of C, which means we're going to stay in this row right here. We're not going to leave that row. Cool. So diatonic chords then just mean that you staying inside of the key, you're going to play every other note starting on, it doesn't matter, any note that you want. If you want to start on home bass, that would be perfectly reasonable. So every other note starting on home bass means you play that one and that one and that one. You actually only need 3 notes. So if you just play C and E and G together, that is the chord, because there's 3 notes, that is built on the first note in the scale, or in the key, home bass, right? So that's the 1 of the key, the most important 1 of the key. And then we just got every other note, right? The first note, the 3rd note, and the 5th note in the scale, if you want to think of it that way. But C, E, and G, that makes up the C chord. So then everything that you're doing during this C chord time is just a C and an E and a G. C and E. If you want to continue on, G, you can play these ones down here, G and E and C. You can play them in any order you want. Leave some out, definitely leave some out, and then, stick others in. Kind of the first step is just like having some chord and being able to at least see, even if you can't play at the beginning, be able to see it on the piano so you could like poke out those notes. So that C chord is like, it's everywhere. It's on the whole entire piano. And you get to just poke out the ones that you want. Those are in the C chord, those are in the C chord, those are in the C chord. But how do I know which ones I want? That we'll deal with all that later. But for right now, any random selection of these notes will sound equally not bad. Cool. So just getting used to that concept, that's enough. So I'd call that the 1 chord, because it's a chord that's built on the 1. The 1 chord has in it the 1 and the 3 and the 5. The first note, the 3rd note, and the 5th note. Okay, cool. So moving on from there, that's step 1. Step 2 is other diatonic chords or diatonic triads from the key of C would be like starting on some other note that's not C. For example, D. So we could start on that note right there, and then we could go every other note. That right there would be like a 2 chord because it's built on the 2nd note, and it's an D, an F, and an A. And then the same exact rule applies for this one. So this is D, F, and A. So D and F and A and D and F and A. That all works. So then, something that went from the 1 chord to the 2 chord that would take some practice right there, just going back and forth and singing them, and then with some kind of predictability, like I'm gonna count down from 9, and then I'm gonna, on the next number 1, I'm gonna try to hit the next chord. So I'm gonna play the 1 chord. 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, I was counting down, wasn't I? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, and so that could like be a song right there. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that's the 1 chord and the 2 chord, and we may have overloaded your circuits right there. Just that's enough to practice. But if you're still with me, then we could go on to the 3 chord and the 4 chord and the 5 chord and the 6 chord. Probably not the 7 chord. Poor 7 chord. It never gets used. You're just not going to see a 7 chord anywhere in there. So other than the 7 chord, any of these other ones would work. You just pick the note that you want to start on, and then you go from there. I did include 2 of them because 2 sets of all of the notes, because it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you're back to 1 again. Right, the whole thing just starts back over. So, since both of these are C's. So then I did include 2 octaves of that because I know we've already got questions about it. This one is included because if you try to make, for example, a 6 chord, and I didn't include any of this, then we're going to go 6 and then what? And people aren't going to know what to do next. So it's the 6 and then the what? What comes next? Well, then the 1 and then the 3. Is the 6th chord, because every other note starting on the 6, and it's hard to see that it loops back around again unless I include 2 octaves, 2 sets of those notes. So those extra notes are just there so you can see how chords are built that start higher up. Okay, cool. So then all of that's done. So we got the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 chord, and the 7 chord. And we're not going to use the 7 chord. And in fact, you don't have to use the majority of the chords. In fact, your play along track is just going to be these 2 chords. It's the C chord and the F chord, which are the 1 and the 4 in the key of C, just back and forth, those 2 back and forth. That is going to sound something a little like this. 1 chord, 2 the 4 chord, back to the 1 chord, and it's like 4 or 5 minutes of just this back and forth between the 1 chord and the 4 chord, because there's like almost infinite possibilities in there. The 1 chord, 4 chord, just picking notes out of that. 1 chord, 4 chord, or the F, 1, 4 chord. Especially if you start including like notes in between the chord tones. So like on the 1 chord, I'm allowed to play any C's and E's and G's if we're in the key of C. So we've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got the 1, the 3, and the 5. But I could play some of the notes in between to help me get from, like if I didn't want to just jump around from like that. That's kind of a big jump there. So instead of just jumping there, I could go from here and then like walk up to that. And use these to get from one note to the next. So once we start doing that stuff, now it's crazy. So we're back. Here's the 4 chord. And then back to the 1 chord. 4. 1 chord. 4 chord, 1 chord, 4 chord, all kinds of stuff now you can do, and that's just using one hand to go between each of those notes. Okay, so then the timing on this real quick, I just want to show you this. The C chord, we talked about how that's the 1 in the key of C, and the F, we talked about how that's the 4 chord in the key of C. And then the amount of time that you're supposed to hold each of those is from here to here is a count of 4, and from here to here is a count of 4. So C is going to get 2 counts of 4. In other words, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and switch back. 1, 2, 3, 4. So then, yeah, that's those are each called measures. Each of those sets of 4 is called a measure. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. If you have questions about that, you can ask that, but I think that should be enough. So basically 8 counts on the C and then 8 counts on the F. We split it up into sets of 4 because it makes other things easier. Okay, cool. So then that is what you would do with your right hand. You're going to pick out notes that are in the chord that you're currently playing. The play-along track that you have is just the 1 chord and the 4 chord alone. Just the 1 and the 4 back and forth. But you could throw in the 2 and the 3 and the 4. Like when I was playing my thing at the beginning, I think I tried to cover all of them except for the 7 because the 7 is stupid. Yeah. All right. So the 1 and the 4 would be enough. And yeah. Leave it at that. If you have questions, of course, ask those. I'll try not to distract myself, though. I'll wait for you to distract me. So then the 1-5-1 patterns in the left hand. So here's the stuff you're supposed to be taking care of in the left hand. Whatever chord you're playing. So, for example, if you're playing a 1 chord, we would call this the 1, the 3, and the 5, because in our scale, it is 1 and 3 and 5. However, if you go to the 2 chord, the chord that's built on this second note, within the world of the 2 chord, when we're on the 2 chord, this is the 1 of the 2 chord. I know some of you are like, okay, cool, what's next? And some of you are like, wait a second, what? You just changed where the 1 is? So, on the 2 chord, this is the 1 of the 2 chord. This is the 3 of the 2 chord, and this is the 5 of the 2 chord. Still, the 1, the 3, and the 5 of the 2 chord are these 3 notes. So the 1, the 3, and the 5 of the 1 chord happen to also be the 1, the 3, and the 5 of the key. Coincidentally, when we go to the 4 chord, this is the 1 of the 4 chord, this is the 3 of the 4 chord, this is the 5 of the 4 chord. But in the scale, this is really the 4 and the 6 and the 1. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So ask your questions about that. I'll try to re-explain that for those of you who found that confusing, because it's confusing. But yeah, on the 4 chord, this is the 1, the 3, and the 5. That's important for your left hand. I wouldn't confuse you like that without some purpose. That's not true. I do that all the time. But in this case, it actually has purpose. So on each chord, you've got a 1 and a 3 and a 5. Well, we don't care about the 3 for the left hand. We're just going to play the 1 and the 5. But we're going to play it down here because our left hand is generally on the left for most people. So we're going to go 1 and 5. And then we want to throw in another one, just a copy of that 1 up an octave. Because most people can reach about an octave. For some people, it's a real stretch. But most people can reach about an octave. So we're going to play 1 and the 5 and the 1 of whatever chord you're currently on. So on the 4 chord, you would go to the 1 of the 4 chord and the 5 of the 4 chord. And then a copy of that 1 of the 4 chord on the top. Which in the key is really the 4 and the 1 and the 4. But you're just not thinking that way once you start playing this stuff a lot. It's just we're on the 4 chord, and then we play our little 1-5-1 pattern, which always in the key of C is going to feel exactly like that. Like I don't even have to look at it, and I can tell that I'm playing the 1 and the 5 and the 1 of each of these chords because it's that same locked in shape each time. Cool. So once we do that, and we're playing notes up here that are from the chord that we're implying down to here, then we've got the C chord, the 1 chord, would be this thing in the left hand. And in the right hand, that note works. That note works. That note works. That note works. And even though we don't have letters on it, that note works. and then off your screen that note works, and you can just keep playing all these notes while that left hand is going, which takes like a whole other level of practice to get this thing down to where it's just going to go on its own back and forth. And then switching chords to the 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord. And it's as hard as, if you're at a piano trying this, it is as hard as it seems it is. Yeah. But the good news is, once you have that down for like 2 chords, the next chord becomes way easier, and the next chord becomes way easier, and the next chord becomes way easier. So it might take you several weeks to become like comfortable with that. And it might take, up to months before that's comfortable, to the extent that you feel that it sounds good. Because for most people, this stuff actually sounds good to listeners way before it feels like it sounds good, because your brain's just going a million miles an hour. Like, I'm probably screwing this up. I don't know that note. Whatever. That probably sounded stupid. That was dumb. And that one, I'm just picking random notes out of the chord. This doesn't even mean anything. It's all the stuff that is going on in the head of most people as you're playing. But actually, like, that's if you just like stepped back and stopped all that internal stuff. That's perfectly pleasant, even though they were just random notes out of the chord. Cool. All right. So then, but the whole point of that was supposed to not be depressing. There was supposed to be an upside to it, which was that once this gets comfortable on a couple chords, then it becomes a lot more comfortable on the rest of the chords in that key. And then once that whole key is comfortable, the next key that you learn will be way easier in the next key. So it all like starts to snowball after a while. But yeah, I guess snowball is a bad. But snowball's like that big. We don't need a snowball. We need like a giant snow monster. It starts to snow monster after a while. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's the 1, the 5, and the 1. And I put this here for those of you who already like the charts help. For some people, that makes sense on its own, and that works. But for some of you, like, I need to know exactly what to play, exactly when. So here we could put make the chart. So our counting is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and switch and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and switch, 2 and 3 and 4. So all that really matters is that right here on beat 1, you play this low 1. Your pinky has to play the root, the 1 of the chord. Other than that, none of it really matters. You could almost put these notes in random order. Now, what I've been doing this whole time is just 1 5 1 5 1 5 1 5, and it happens to loop around perfectly 1 5 1 5 1 5. That it loops like that, but you could totally like change this stuff up. Or any of these would work. Like that all that kind of works. So you can put the 1 and the 5 in almost any order that you want. All that really matters is that on beat 1, you have to hit the 1 over here. Right there, that is important. But the rest of them, you can just chart them out and practice them in any order that you want. Eventually, you'll run into all of the possible orders of all the 1s and the 5s and stuff. And in tomorrow's lesson, we're going to add in some other numbers other than the 1 and the 5. But if this is terrifying enough, then I didn't even say that. Don't worry about that. Okay. Well, let's do, I guess, all of our stuff that we do then. Let's do our wrap up, and we'll do our feature of the day and whatnot. So for the wrap-up, by the way, this is the part where you start putting your questions in the box below the video if you're on the Learn Piano Live website. Or if you're on one of the other streaming platforms, then hopefully I'll get over to your chat rooms as well and see if there are any questions over there. So then, Yeah, we've got diatonic chords. We talked about how that just means that it's you start on some note in whatever key you're in. Today we just stayed in the key of C because it's nice and safe. Just play all the white notes. And then every other note. These are all the different possible chords in the key of C. Cool. And then they are named by whatever you start on. So if you build a chord on the 2, you don't have to play those notes in that order once you build the chord, because you're going to just split those notes up all over the place. But in order to find the chord initially, you're going to start on the 2 in this case, and then build off of that. So this one is called the 2 chord, even if we play it like that in a different order, that is still a 2 chord because it's all of the notes from that 2 chord initially. All right, fantastic. So that's diatonic chords, and we talked about how you don't usually use the 7. It's pretty much not used, and how 1 is the most important one. It's probably the one that you want to start on, and the one that you want to come back to at the end of the song. In case I didn't make that point clear enough at the beginning, probably the most comfortable way to end whatever song it is that you're creating is to just come back to the 1 at the end, wherever you went during your song. That's going to be the comfortable thing. We talked about 1-5-1 patterns and how each chord, whatever the number of the chord is, also has its own 1 and 3 and 5 within it. And the 1s and the 5s are the ones that are generally going to be in this type of piano playing in the left hand. So 1s and 5s and 1s. This would be the 1, the 5, 1 of the 2 chord. That'd be the 1 of the 2 chord. Man, it's just a weird sentence if that's the 1 of the 2. I'm sorry. I haven't found a better way of explaining that one, but feel free to ask your questions in. And then we talked about your play along, how that is just the C chord, which is the 1 chord in the key of C, and the F chord, which is the 4 chord in the key of C, and how we've got 2 measures of C before we move to 2 measures of F, and each measure is just a chunk of 4 beats, 4 pulses. So yeah, and that's at 80 beats per minute. There we go. 80 beats per minute for that. So that just means if you're using a metronome, you would set that number to 80 to practice along with it. Okay? Or you could just play the track. Either one. Okay, I think that's it, which means it's time for our feature of the day, which is a little way for me to tell you about something cool and also to waste a little bit of time so you have a little bit more time to get your questions in. And today it is that guy right there, Fabrizio Caligaris, who's on YouTube and has some surprisingly fresh covers of some old songs. So I would go check him out, and apparently he has his own like stuff that he wants you to buy and stuff too. So I don't know if that's I don't know. His playing was very impressive. So go check him out, and if you like his stuff, then buy his stuff. I've not been paid to say any of this. I just thought it was worth checking out because for free you can watch his stuff. So that's the right price. Okay, questions and answers. Here we go, friends. All right. Yes. Question number 1. Is new age music just mood music? Yeah, I don't know if like mood music is a thing to you. I don't know that term as like an official thing, but yeah, so it's just like stuff that you would, if you are the pianist at a charity auction, and it is the part of the charity auction where the people are up on stage talking about how that charity has changed their life. This is the stuff you would play behind them to help people cry and give more money. That's what this is. If that's mood music, then yes. Or if someone like invites you over to their Christmas party and they're like, hey, do you know, Christmas is a bad example, but because they probably want you to play Christmas music. So you'd need to learn a Christmas song or find a way to... I don't know. So if you're just sitting down at the piano and you wanted to play something and you couldn't think of anything, what songs do I already know? I got that one that I'm working on. I know I've played a bunch of them before, but I can't remember any of them right now. And my friends are looking at me. Then you could just sit down and make up some junk here that was just like diatonic chords, and it would sound like you were playing something. And then they'd be like, wow, that's great. What is that? And you're like, oh, it's something I wrote. They're like, you write music too? You're incredible. Amazing. So yeah, it might be what you call mood music. Question number 2. I don't understand the top chart. What do I do with the bottom lines? Yeah, nothing. I would recommend you do nothing with those. Perhaps I shouldn't have even included them, except that tomorrow we're going to be building upon some of these concepts. So if you're coming back for the intermediate lesson, these will become relevant. But they're just other keys. So this top one is the key of C, and all the others here are the key of D flat and D and E flat and E and F and G flat and G and A flat and A and B flat and B, which are not keys that you will play in. If you're playing in the key of C, if you're using all white notes, that's the key of C automatically. All white notes means the key of C. So if they are confusing for you, I would recommend that that is an indication that they are not for you. They are for someone else, which does not mean that you're not good enough yet. No, it does. That's exactly what it means, is that you're not good enough yet to play with those other things, which is fine, because I'm not good enough for whatever things are beyond me. So we all have that thing. If the key of C is a challenge, then just go with that. Unless I misunderstood your question and I just needlessly insulted you, in which case, then definitely send me another comment or question, and I will try to be more respectful, perhaps in the future. Yeah, so there are other keys. There are other keys. It doesn't matter. You don't need any of them to play very impressive stuff. I didn't use any of those other keys in the stuff I played in the beginning. Okay, you're fine. You're great. I don't know. You might be terrible, but you're here. You're learning. I'm trying to make up for what I feel was probably an unintended insult. Jamin. What song is the play along track? I know I've heard it, but I can't remember even who it was. It was just something I made up. See? Yeah, no, so it's just the 1 chord and the 4 chord back and forth. So yes, it probably is a billion trillion songs out there. I don't know which one you're thinking of, but it's definitely a lot of songs that are out there. But it's just, for me, it was just what should we practice playing along with? Let's keep it simple. How about just the 1 chord and the 4 chord? And so that's how I wrote that song. I just picked 2 chords and went back and forth and ended on the 1. Okay, I believe that is the end of our questions. Yes, indeed. So then, that means that tomorrow we'll be taking the next step on this, and next week we'll be covering the song Yesterday from the Beatles. And again, go check out that one guy. I can't remember what his name was, Caligaris something rather, but if you rewind, you'll be able to see his name. Go check him out, because we're going to be featuring his cover of the Yesterday song. And yeah, till next time, I love you. Despite what I accidentally said, I'm not going to be able to make up for that. But I do love you. Until next time, good luck. Have fun.